Peter Reonisto, MD, Moorpark College. The special senses. Peter Reonisto, MD, Moorpark College. Traditional senses. Smell, taste, sight, hearing. Equilibrium, special senses receptors. Localized and confined to the head region. Not free nerve endings of sensory neurons. Distinct receptor cells. Receptor cells, neuron-like epithelial cells that transfer sensory information to other neurons in afferent pathways to the brain. Sensory receptor cells are housed in complex sensory organs, eye or ear, or in distinctive epithelial structures, taste buds or olfactory epithelium. Sensory information travels via cranial nerves. Chemical senses: taste, gustation, taste receptors located on tongue surface, posterior palate, inner surface of cheek, posterior pharyngeal wall, epiglottis. Smell, olfaction. Smell receptors called olfactory epithelium, located on superior nasal concha, superior nasal septum. Taste, 10,000 taste buds in your mouth. Sweet and salty are least sensitive. Bitter ones are most sensitive. Your tongue picks up 4 types of taste: sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. Taste tongue mucosa, papillae. 1. Fungiform papillae scattered over the entire surface of the tongue. 2. Circumvallate papillae inverted V near the back of the tongue. 10,000 taste buds in the tongue. Taste buds close-up. Molecules of food stimulate the taste cells to send messages to your brain. The sweet and salty buds are the least sensitive and the bitter ones are the most sensitive. Lower pharynx. Epiglottis. Anterior 2/3. Vagus nerve. Posterior 1/3. Pharynx. Thalamic nuclei. Solitary nucleus, medulla oblongata, CN7, 9, 10. Taste. Buds. Smell. Odor particles drift into your nose and cause your smell receptors to send messages to your brain. Olfactory bulb, smell. The smell part of the brain is in the limbic region, and is connected to feeling and memory. Limbic lobe. Olfactory bulb, CNI. Olfactory epithelium. Olfactory receptor cell. Olfactory epithelium. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Olfactory receptor cell. Bipolar neurons. Vision. Your eyes gather visual information, which is sent to your brain to be processed and understood. Anatomy of the eye. 1. Sclera. 2. Choroid ciliary body. Iris, cornea. 3. Retina. Conjunctiva. Vision, retina, vision, retina. Rod sense brightness. Cone sense color. The retina, in the back of your eye, has cells that are sensitive to light. They connect directly to your brain. Visual pathway. Light slash. Image. Aqueous. Humor. Vitreous. Humor. Optic. Nerve. Rods or cones. Photoreceptors. Retinal/ganglion cells. Lateral geniculate nucleus. Optic nerve. Optic chiasm. Optic tract. Lateral geniculate nucleus. Optic radiation. Visual cortex. Visual field defects. Hearing. Sound waves make your eardrum vibrate. Then, the small bones in your ear vibrate, and the vibrations go through the snail-like cochlea, which turns them into nerve impulses to your brain. The ear, hearing and equilibrium. Regions. Outer, external, ear. Midlayer. Inner, internal, ear. External ear components, A. Auricle, pinna. B. External acoustic, auditory, canal. C. Hair, sebaceous gland, modified apocrine sweat gland, ceruminous gland. D. Tympanic membrane. 2/3 temporal bone. 1/3 elastic cartilage. Middle ear boundaries, petrous part of temporal bone. A. Medial boundary. 1. Superior oval window, vestibular. 2. Inferior round window, cochlear. B. Lateral boundary. 1. Tympanic membrane. C. Superior boundary. 1. Petrous bone. D. Posterior wall. 1. Mastoid antrum leadsto the mastoid air cells. E. Anterior wall. 1. Pharyngotympanic tube leads to the pharynx. F. Inferior boundary. 1. Thin bony floor where the internal jugular vein lies. Middle ear components, ossicles, 1. Malleus, hammer, 2. Incus, anvil. 3. Stapes, stirrup. B. Skeletal muscle. 1. Tensor tympani. 2. Stapedius. Origin, cartilage part of pharyngotympanic tube. Insertion, malleus. Origin, posterior wall. Midlayer. Insertion, stapes. Inner ear, labyrinth. Bony labyrinth, petrous bone cavity, filled with perilymph. Semicircular canals. Vestibule. Cochlea. Membranous labyrinth membrane-walled sacs and ducts, filled with endolymph. Semicircular ducts. Utricle and saccule. Cochlear duct. Cochlea spiraling chamber. Coils for about 2½ turns around a pillar called modiolus. Consist of coiled part of the membranous labyrinth called cochlear duct, scala media, which contains the receptors for hearing. Cochlear nerve runs through the core of the modiolus. Auditory pathway ends with the vestibule cochlear duct. Ends at the round window. Auditory pathway. 3 rows of outer hair cells. 1 row of inner hair cells. Spiral. Organ of Corti. 3 rows of outer hair cells. Auditory pathway acoustic area, temporal lobe cortex. Medial geniculate body. Brachium of inferior colliculi. Inferior colliculi, midbrain. Lateral lemniscus. Nuclei of lateral lemniscus. Cochlear nuclei, medulla. Cochlear division CN8. Spiral ganglion. Hair cells, organ of Corti. Semicircular canal and vestibule. Handles equilibrium pathway. 1. Cupula, semicircular canals. 2. Macula, vestibule. Cupula and macula. Vestibular nerve. Reflex centers. Vestibular. Nuclein. Medulla. Vestibular. Nuclein. Cerebellum.